And so I tried to get together with other union-based activists who were oriented on the union, to try to fight those battles. But then something else started to happen, which was that the corporate reformers came in with a new model of schooling, and Harlem was ground zero. And that was charter schools. And they made huge promises to parents in Harlem, said, you have been the victim of educational injustice. We're going to give you educational justice. We're going to give you racial justice. And so immediately, all of that fighting and organizing I had been doing, really along more or less straightforward, what you might call bread and butter union kind of lines about our working conditions, our supplies in the classroom, these kinds of things. Suddenly there was this whole other dimension that really could not be ignored any longer. And I've seen in my time as an education activist a real coming together of folks like the people in NYCORE, who, by the way, this is my first time at a NYCORE meeting, which is probably, crazy. And all these years I haven't been here. Sorry that I haven't been here. But I admired NYCORE from afar because I saw that they were taking up this question of racial justice, not only in terms of the conditions, the kinds of things that I was already fighting around, but in terms of the curriculum, in terms of the way that teachers and students interact, in terms of everything about the way pedagogy is organized. But I felt it was more of a pedagogical angle. And now I feel like we've gotten to a moment where it's impossible for teachers to close the door and just say, I'm going to do my radical education, my progressive pedagogy, and just close the door and forget about politics. And it's also impossible for people who care about the union and work rules and the power of collective bargaining to ignore the racial questions and the social questions. It's impossible to have a union that doesn't make a broader defense of public education. And as Julie said, that cannot be a defense of the status quo, because too many people are rightly dissatisfied with the status quo. Instead, we have to speak with the voice of parents and fight for the schools that our children deserve, which is not in every case the schools as they are. So as I began to try to feel this out and figure out how do we criticize the charter schools, how do we develop this critique, I went to, in some cases, top officials of the UFT and talked to them about this. And they said, no, you can't say any of those things. There's no constituency for that. Meaning the Democratic Party won't go for it. So they're very much wedded to a strategy of friends in high places. Lobbyists, legislators, attorneys, powerful people who are going to look after us and protect us as long as we're reasonable with them. Problem, that's not working. Because unfortunately, the Democratic Party is as much a part of this as the Republican Party. That's why I believe we're catching such hell down here. There's no way to just vote our way out of this. Minus union elections, of course, there is a way to vote. But within the kind of official politics as it's structured now, I really believe there's no solution for teachers there. So we really have to fight. And I believe we have to conduct that fight in a certain kind of way that's very much about more the slogan that's on the back of every MORE t-shirt, about recognizing that our working conditions are ARE, students' learning conditions, and that our fates are linked here. So that, seeing that these different kind of scenes of education activists were more and more coming together, I was very excited to participate in the founding of the movement of rank and file educators. And then last year we got a tremendous boost, which was that a like-minded group of teachers, having taken over their union and been elected to office, carried out the most bold and incredible strike that we've seen in many, many years, not just in teacher unions, but in unions, where they took this, nearly exactly what Julie said, they took that kind of a case to the public and won overwhelming support, especially among public school parents. Overwhelming support, and Rahm Emanuel, the mayor, his support tanked. And really they came out, they emerged from that strike victorious, I think. And then we see in other cities the same kind of thing. Actually, we see right now in Seattle, teachers who are organized independently of their union leadership are beginning to find creative ways to challenge the priorities of corporate reform. I'm speaking of the Seattle teachers who are leading the MAP test boycott that you may have heard about. A boycott, a teacher boycott against standardized tests, risking their jobs. Now, to their credit, our national union leaders have gotten behind that. But you see the pattern is that teachers lead and then the leaders follow. So that's why I think we really have to have two goals here. One goal is we have to have a movement of rank and file educators. We have to have that. We have to have a grassroots movement where our real strength lies in every school. And ultimately, we have to replace the current leadership. But I think we can't have one of those things without the other. Will be insufficient. We really need to do both things. So that's why I'm running a bit more.